Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation. And welcome everybody to like a kind of a short mini workshop on how to create a cannabis social club. Well, in fact, I hope to explain you how simple it is to create a transparent system for cannabis cultivation and distribution that is easy controllable by authorities and meets a number of requirements concerning public health, public safety, transparency, and accountability. So the perverse effect of cannabis prohibition has produced a market that is essentially driven by economic reasons. And at the same time, a control apparatus that is essentially driven by moral and political reasons. So none of these two systems really take into account the interests of consumers, the rights of consumers, and the rights of producers. The result can be seen in this triangle, or the two triangles of drug-related harms and benefits. You see that both for the drug control apparatus as for the drug market, we have on the top an international establishment, an international elite that is, or the United Nations in terms of the drug control, or the global mafia in terms of the drug trade. And going down, you see national governments, local governments, and finally on the bottom, the people, the individual citizens that have to deal with these situations, either policemen on the drug control side or users, producers on the drug trade side. And those are the people who carry all the harms and almost have no benefits, because all the benefits are on the top, on the elite, where the decisions are made. Consequently, the people who have the power to change things, they sit on top, and they won't change anything because they only feel the benefits of this situation, while the people who feel the harms of this current situation, they are below and they don't have any power to decide. So what cannabis consumers should do, in our view, is to replace drug prohibition with a sound and healthy alternative, and to build this from the bottom up, not to wait until some elite power structure will decide it for them, but to create it from the bottom up. And these are the Cannabis Social Club concept. It started in Spain, where since 2006, for the first time, the first cannabis club was allowed to operate. It was acquitted by a local court in Bilbao. Since then, hundreds of clubs have been built up, and there is now an estimate of about 50,000 people in Spain that are members of some kind of a cannabis club. But there we also have to see that there is some diffusion in the concept. Still, there are some clubs working along the principles of a cannabis social club, but there is also many clubs in Spain who have started to work more, to operate more like a coffee shop. We will come back to that later. At the moment, we see that in Spain there are regional authorities, regional parliaments, both in Catalonia and Basque Country, that are working on a definitive legal regulation for the clubs. So yes, there has been some repression on some clubs. In Barcelona, 1/3 of the clubs have been closed by police operations in the past month, but that means that 2/3 of the clubs are tolerated, are allowed to operate. So the system, the concept has been embraced by the local authorities, and we see that around Spain also other regional authorities have accepted the model. Then in Belgium, where I'm from, we have two cannabis social clubs. The first one, Trek du Plant from Antwerp, is operating since 2010. We have about 380 members, 2 regional sections, 15 different growers with a maximum of 49 plants each. So every 2 to 3 months we have a harvest, and we divide that amongst our members that are both recreational and medicinal, all based on a margin in the law that says that every adult citizen has the right to possess or a maximum of 3 grams like that, or 1 plant to produce these personal quantities. It's not legal, it's still illegal, cannabis is still illegal, but this is a kind of ministerial guideline that interprets the possession and cultivation for personal use is not anymore a crime, cannot be prosecuted. So we recommend to all people in the Czech Republic and other European countries who would like to develop a model where consumers control their own supply without the interference of middlemen, and look for a tool to convince politicians, to convince public opinion of the benefits of legal regulation, to organize yourself. Don't think it's impossible. We did that also 5 years ago in Belgium. We thought it was impossible, but it wasn't impossible. And to start working on it. And we recommend you to follow an approach that is sort of developed for countries where it seems nothing is possible yet, where there is no margin in the law yet for personal cultivation. And we think that in 5 years, if you follow this approach, you could have a plantation like the one you see here of Trek to Plant, where every plant is identified with a membership card to an individual citizen who has put the copy of his ID card and says, this is my plant, and I give the mandate to a club to grow it for me. So step 1, it's the public presentation. In order to find out what is the immediate reaction of the authorities, both the prosecutors and the police, but also politicians, the media, you need to test the ID. You need to get out into a press conference, public atmosphere, where you present, you do not grow yet, you just present the ID together with some famous personality, a writer, an artist, a politician, somebody who is sympathetic to the cause and can help to sort of justify or legitimate your initiative. All you do is to explain the purpose of what you want to make. You can, of course, take a plant with you or some seeds with you to make it sure that people take you serious, that you're not just blah blah, that you're really a serious group. But you don't have to do that. You can just tell the concept, make it clear what you want to do, and see what the reaction is. Just measure what the reaction is of certain important personalities there. You make it clear that the purpose of your club is to only grow for the personal use of your members. You want to make it clear that you are a group of consumers. It can be a group of friends that have decided to organize the supply for their use. You have no intention to find new clients on the street and buy or sell it to them. You are not supply driven. You are demand driven. You want to grow enough to supply, to satisfy the demand of your members, of a limited group of people. So there's no objective immediately to grow and sell as much as you want. There's no money purpose inside. It is a non-for-profit initiative. All the other things that have to do with cannabis may be profit-driven. We don't have a problem with that, but in order to make it clear what you want to do, to make it a healthy initiative, where you say the clear initiative of our group is to make it possible that people have access to cannabis, you can do that perfectly in a non-profit setting. You don't need to make a commercial setting. And we think, we don't speak about the United States, but we think in Europe it's much easier to make this acceptable to public opinion when you say you are non-profit or when you are non-profit, because the combination drugs, and cannabis is a drug, people can have negative effects from consuming cannabis on the wrong moment or in the wrong quantities. So it is a susceptible thing. It is a serious responsibility you take when you distribute cannabis to people. It's much better, in our opinion, it's much easier to make it acceptable for public opinion when there is no money making involved. On the cannabis, only on the cannabis. On all the other things there can be, but on the cannabis it does not have to be. So non-profit is a good principle. Organic products, you are health orientated, you want to contribute to health, so you want to make sure people have the most healthy product you can get, and this is perfectly possible nowadays. With soil you can make a perfect organic product without any chemical additive. You can make a good product. Then the club has to be open, has to be transparent, so especially financially it has to have its books, its accounts open for members, so members can control what happens with the price they pay, why the price is like that, what happens with the money the club earns, who earns what, which amounts are paid. This is all important to show, and also for authorities, that they can see what happens in the club, that you have a transparent bookkeeping. You have internal democracy. You organize a club as an association where the decisive organ, the decisive place where the decisions are made is the General Assembly, where all the members have the same access. Every member has one voice. It's not that the directory or some people who have founded it, they are more important than others. Every member is the same. So all members can put questions, can make suggestions for the management board to follow. And then, of course, important is that you want to engage in dialogue with authorities. You do not want to hide away. You don't want to make some hidden operations. You want to dialogue with authorities and together figure out a common interpretation of this concept. So then if you have published or presented the initiative and there is no reaction or no negative reaction, you can go to step 2. This is, for instance, the public presentation of our first concept we did in the kind of botanical gardens in Antwerp. We had one cannabis plant. There was about 25 journalists and 5 activists, so it was a really successful event. Step 2 is then to create a club. To start with this group of friends, group of people you can trust, and you start to grow. Of course, first to establish the association as a registered association, that every country has legal requirements for that you have to follow. The founders of that association should be in the legal register, so they should be clear, they should be aware of that they will be known with their name and address. You should edit statutes and house rules together with a lawyer. Of course, there is a good idea to contact a good lawyer who is willing to defend you in court if it's necessary. You have to make an agreement about the price that he or she will take for that. You can always make it clear for this lawyer that he has the chance to obtain eternal fame if he will be the one who will legalize this concept in your country, so he can maybe do it for a friendly price. But we recommend, of course, that you do not do this without that you have the insurance of a good lawyer behind you, that whenever something happens that the authorities decide to prosecute you, that you have a good lawyer at your side. And then, of course, to organize this organizational and financial transparency in the way that you can see how other associations do it, you can do it exactly in the same way. The principles we have already talked about. This is an example of a General Assembly of a Cannabis Social Club in Spain. This is an example of a plantation in Belgium where every plant is identified with a declaration, and on the back of the declaration there's a copy of the identity card of the member. And then when you have grown, it's enough to grow maybe 10 plants for 5 people. It's enough to do that. If you have your harvest again, to look for publicity, to present it in a public way, to say you have now your first harvest and you have shown that it is possible. If there's still no sign of response there, it's time to make step 3, which is the professionalization of your club. You need to make another organization, another structure at the moment that you will get new members in that you don't know. You have never talked with these people before, you never know who they are. You need to install some measures to make sure you prevent problems. So you need to apply some protocols there. In the first place, for your members, you have to apply a protocol that you do not just take anonymously new members in your club. You organize an intake interview where you go through some questions together with your members. You find out, for instance, if they're 18 or 21, what is their history of cannabis use. Well, we come back to that later. But you have this membership form, you have this intake interviews. Then, of course, you have to have a protocol on privacy. Members are reluctant to register in a club because they are afraid their identity will be leaked. And not only towards the police, but maybe towards their employer or their teacher or somebody who should not be aware of that this person is a cannabis consumer. So it's a responsibility that you take, and if you take people's identity, you need to have a policy on privacy. You will see that, as you're a Cannabis Social Club, you have to react on. First, you have to get new members in, and then you have to increase your production capacity. You cannot just increase your production capacity without that you have members. So you have first to have members and then start to produce. So there is a time where people have to wait. They have to stand on waiting lists because you first as a club have to find space to grow for them. Then you have to have a policy on medicinal users. Some medicinal users cannot wait. You cannot leave them waiting for so long. So you have to have a policy where you help medicinal users before you help recreational users. You have to have a clear communication with your members. Make sure they get informed regularly about the advance of the club so they keep trusting you. There's a lot of so-called and fake activism and cannabis distribution around, so people need to trust you. You need to communicate with them, you need to keep them aware of how you're growing and what they can expect from you. And then, of course, also it's good to organize moments where people come together, where members come together, and they participate in non-cannabis related activities. That is not all about cannabis distribution. It's also about showing what cannabis culture is and organizing people together in a political way, so you make it clear for authorities, for public opinion and for the media that this is really an alternative for a legal market. You have also the possibility to make a kind of social medical program where you follow people. If people are willing to have some conversations about their cannabis consumption with a doctor, you organize a doctor, or you organize moments where you regularly check if people are happy with the way they are treated in the club, but also with their cannabis consumption as such. In this way you can also play a role in prevention of problematic consumption. In the intake interview, for instance, you check if they are adults, you check if they are resident of the country, and this is important. What we have seen in Spain, for instance, in Spain the whole concept has come under pressure at the moment. They have allowed tourists inside the clubs. That has blown up a little bit the system, because then at that moment, of course, the tourists, they come and the same night they want to smoke, and then it becomes very tempting for the Spanish clubs to start growing and growing and growing, because they know they will be able to sell it to tourists, and then the whole system falls apart, of course. Then it becomes a concept based on supply. Somebody who has the possibility to grow a lot of weed and then organizes a Cannabis Social Club in order to sell it. This is, of course, a whole different concept, and it is also endangering at the moment the concept in Spain. The reaction of the authorities has especially has been provoked by the fact that some clubs become so big. They start to send flyers out in the Ramblas in Barcelona that here you can go there, in this club you can get cannabis. So the whole concept becomes commercially driven. And yeah, we think this is a problem that can be avoided by saying, well, the clubs are for the people who live in the country, and yeah, for those people we first have to make it accepted in our country, that our authorities need to accept it, and that tourists is the second phase, is the next phase. It's something that we would like, of course, tourists also to help them. But yeah, in this situation, we see this also a little bit in Colorado at the moment, that when there is one country where cannabis is available and a lot of other countries around where it is not, then there comes a whole lot of pressure on this country, on this place, because a lot of people want to go and get legal cannabis, but it also makes it worse for the people in that place because the prices go up, and there is this tension with the public opinion, the authorities, that they don't like to see it. Cannabis tourism has been an argument for the Dutch government to clamp down on coffee shops. It's been an argument for the Spanish government to clamp down on Cannabis Social Club. So we think it is better to avoid that and to focus only on the residents. Then on the intake interview, you also check how is their history with cannabis use, how long they smoke, how much experience they have, do they know what are the risks? And you tell them about how they can prevent this risk, and you make them confident with that they can also come in a moment, at the moment where they experience problems, they can come to the club and try to get help from them. You explain the procedures, you make them sign declarations and so on. Then the administration of the plans, of course, you have to document them well. It always has to be clear from your documentation where you have plans, how many. So if there is an authority action that authorities want to get in and get to know how are you working, if you're not some kind of fake dealers, then you have immediately the documentation ready and you can show that you are working decently. Of course, you still have to have a discretion around the growing places. It's not good to have this in a very public way. You don't need only to be careful with the police. There's also other people who would like to know where you are growing, so you have to be careful with that. And start small. Don't start immediately to think about thousands of members, but start to grow for 10 members, then after for 50, then after for 100, and grow solidly. Then you will see you will take each step in a good way and you are able to defend it if something goes wrong. The growers, you can really give them, it's the most difficult thing. It's the most dangerous place of a Cannabis Social Club, because the growers need to be trustful. They need to work together with you and not sell on the black market behind your back. So you need to set up a good relationship with growers. They should see the privilege, the advantage of working together with the Cannabis Social Club. Not only can they get technical advice of people who help to establish a grow room, optimize it, to prevent plagues in a biological way, to help in emergencies. No other grower can just have all this assistance from one place. And then, of course, a transparent calculation of the price, a test on active elements you can do, and then the legal support in case of problems. Then finally, if all this goes on, if you're operating this without any interference from the politicians, then you have a perfect model to go to authorities and to present them what if you could do this in the whole city or in the whole country based on this model, and you would allow us to grow somewhere. We have made this calculation for the city of Antwerp. If the city of Antwerp would allow us to grow for 30,000 cannabis consumers in our city, we could do it for €5 a gram, which is very, very cheap. It's the half of what is sold on the black market. We would create 250 full-time equivalent jobs as gardeners, as service providers. we would be able to pay €1 million for a rent of a greenhouse of 6,000 square meters and still have €4 million in tax every year for the city. So it would be a completely win-win situation for everybody. And yeah, we are now waiting for the possibility to discuss this really with our authorities, who are, of course, at the moment still too shy and too afraid to speak about this. But we think this is, in a few years, this may be a possibility. With the Cannabis Social Club, you can immediately see that there is advantages of regulation that immediately come up. They appear versus prohibition. All the things that we have today with prohibition, like legal insafety, no control on production, increased THC levels, easy access for young people, all these things, you can already show that when you do it in a Cannabis Social Club, you can see that this already disappears. So nobody really can be against it, except the people who want to have a mafia-driven industry, and of course a control-driven policy, and that is the few that want that still. But the most others, they think there's no problem. And then if there's any answer from a politician that says, no, the European Union does not allow this, we will be punished by Brussels if we do this. Well, in 2006 we already asked this to the European Commissioner of Justice. Is it a problem for the European Union if national member states allow the growing of cannabis for personal consumption? And he answered that it is not. There's nothing in the European legislation that stops national member states to allow personal consumption. And there's nothing also in the United Nations agreements that prevent countries to allow this to their citizens. So the step 4 approach: first the public presentation of your initiative, then to create a club, then to professionalize it and administrate your growing, and then finally to convince your politicians. If you need any help or further information, you're always welcome to contact us, and I wish you good luck. Thank you very much.
Some questions?
If there are any questions.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Actually, I don't know anything about that, but my question is from the legal side. So if you are allowed to grow for your own consumption, how is it then in the club? So you're also not allowed to pay a membership, right? So you have to be. Do you also have to do something actively in the club, or can you be just a member of the club and then get your cannabis without? I mean, where you have to basically prove that you're not. There's no cash flow. Is that correct?
You have to prove what?
That there's no money flow, right? If you are a member of this club and you don't do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just a member of the club.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say the grower is paid by the club. Is that correct?
Yes. In our system, we have several members who grow.
Yeah.
And we have members who do not grow.
Okay, so it means that the members who do not grow, they have to pay the ones who are growing.
Yeah.
Is that a problem legally, or?
No. The figure is that the members pay membership.
Okay.
At us, it's €25 a year. Mm. That's the membership just to be a member. And then if they consume, so if they order plants, they pay a variable membership to allow the association to grow their plants, and they pay according to their consumption. So at our club they pay €7 a gram for the amount of cannabis they consume. Every 2 months they have the possibility to receive their plant. Okay. And we put this plant in bags of 20 grams and a bag with all the leaves and the material that is not consumable. So they pay for the service that the association does by growing this plant for them.
And this is not a legal problem that you basically pay some money to get something, but you're not growing it.
No, we talk this with our bookkeeper and with our lawyer, and they say, yeah, you can say this is a kind of membership fee, which is variable because you are contributing to the costs that the association has to produce the cannabis plants, and you pay for the amount. You can also be a member and not receive any plants. The growers, for instance, they do not buy what they grow. They grow for themselves within those plants that they have. There's also members who do not consume cannabis. They just support the association. They do not pay more than 25 euros. But the ones who consume, they pay an extra amount, and that is based on what they consume. And this is legal. We have tried to find out how this is with taxes, because normally this could provoke a problem with the tax authorities, because they would say, well, you are paying for a product. But we know that there has been a coffee shop in the Netherlands who has tried to oblige the Dutch state to pay taxes, because in that way they would sort of justify their own existence, because they would pay taxes. And the Dutch state didn't want to accept it. And then they went to court, to the European Court of Justice, and they ruled, I think 2006, that cannabis cannot be taxed because it's an illegal product. You cannot tax an illegal product. So there we are sort of supported, and we also say we do not sell cannabis. Nobody buys cannabis. People pay us for the service that we did to grow their cannabis. And this service is a part of their membership. So you have to be a bit creative with these words. But,
thank you.
Žádné další dotazy? Tak já vám děkuji za pozornost. A ještě jeden. Můžu vás?
Pardon, Marek, zdraví. I would like to ask you, what do you think that has to happen in Czech Republic to have a social club? Like legally and initiatively, like.
I don't know how many people you need here to make a legal association. How many?
You think there is no legal problem in Czech law, like to have a social club if someone goes and do it, like you had the presentation, like following the steps?
Yeah, we advise you to find a good lawyer. A serious lawyer, not the one who says, oh, yeah, I will just defend it without hearing well what you do. You have to have a serious lawyer who is studying the law, who is studying the declarations of politicians, of ministers of the past, let's say the past years. If it's a good lawyer, he or she will try to see what is the intention of the drug law. The intention of the drug law is to protect public health and public order. The Cannabis Social Club is a contribution to public health and public order. So this is your basis. This is how a lawyer can say to the judge, these people try to follow the intention of the law, and they are confronted with a situation that maybe especially medicinal patients, they are obliged to go to illegal market, to illegal circus to get cannabis. And they want to avoid all the problems related to that. So therefore, they want to organize this for their own consumption. They don't have the intention to make money. They don't want to go around and say, hey, use cannabis, it's good for you. No, they just want to make sure that they themselves have a healthy supply. If he's a good lawyer, and he sticks to this, or he or she, of course, sticks to this argument, and you have some people behind who can make a serious presentation, I think you have many possibilities to make this in Czech, but I don't know, of course.
I think you just responded the question, like starting with a good lawyer.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
One more question. And where do you get the money from? Like for the lawyer, who pays for this? It's expensive, and the place you rent and all the kick-off money. You know, the first money.
I know. That's why I said you need to convince the lawyer that he or she can become famous, and it will be for his own, so he can do it for a friendly price. Yeah, because I know. But yeah, you have to find, maybe, we started in Belgium with 30 people who were willing to give 50 euros each, and then 1,500 euros, because we had agreed with the lawyer he would do it for 1,500 euros. And he did it for 1,500 euros. But then after he said, next time I ask 10,000 euros. So yeah, you have to have this connection with a good lawyer who is sympathetic to the cause. And then at least, you need 20, 30 people that believe in this and that keep and support each other. Yeah. But I think 25 people, 30, you can do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Další otázka.
Okay.
Vám
Thank you
děkuji
very
za
much.
pozornost, to byl Joep Oomen.